So it's time for the playoffs, and that got me thinking about one of the more famous sayings in football: defense wins championships. That's the saying, but is it true? To find this out, I went back over the last 15 Super Bowls and looked at how both the winners and losers ranked on offense and defense. And I looked at both categories in terms of yardage and scoring. On a slight side note, scoring was much more important than yardage. Teams ranked in the bottom half of the league 17 times in yardage, but only ranked in the bottom half 9 times in scoring. So even bad total defenses tended to be decent scoring ones. So here's the numbers. I looked at 4 things. Was the winner's offense better than the loser's defense? Was their defense better than the loser's offense? And was their offense better than the loser's offense? And the same for defense. Turns out in the last 15 Super Bowls there have been the exact same number of times that any of these things have happened. Sometimes teams were tied. For example, the Broncos' offense ranked just as highly as the Seahawks' defense, and on 3 occasions the winning team wasn't even better than the losing one in any category whatsoever. Obviously, a draw isn't good enough, so I expanded the group to the last 20 Super Bowls going back to the 1996 Super Bowl. I should now mention I'm referring to Super Bowls by the year of their season, not the year it took place. So this year's Super Bowl will take place in 2017, but it's for the 2016 season. I just didn't want any misunderstandings there. Now, looking at the last 20 years, we had a winner. The most regular occurrence was that the winning team's offense was better than the losing team's defense, and just as regularly was the fact that the winning team's offense was better than the losing team's offense too. That's not to say one guarantees the other. In 2014, only the Patriots' offense was better than the Seahawks' offense, and in 2011, only the Giants' offense was better than the Patriots' defense. Sometimes teams were better in more than one, sometimes, like I said, they weren't actually better in any, and only on 2 occasions in 20 years did the winner run the table on the loser: in 1996 when the Packers beat the Patriots, and in 1999 when the Rams beat the Titans. So in 50% of all Super Bowls, the winner was better on offense than the loser was on defense. But in 45%, the winner was better on defense than the loser was on offense. Still extremely close. But it doesn't mean that only in 5% neither is true. 5% of 20 is 1, but 3 Super Bowls were won by teams that didn't rank higher than their opponent. That's because sometimes teams were better in offense versus defense and defense versus offense. So ignoring those results where both happened, which happened more often? Offense, but again, just by a score of 6-5. This doesn't really offer an answer, although it does suggest that contrary to the popular sayings, offense is actually responsible for more Super Bowl wins than defense. I'd like that to be true, because then I will have made a video that may change the way you look at something. However, I don't think it is true, and that's down to the final numbers I looked at. We've only been looking at rankings for defense and offense, and for this to be accurate, it would assume that a second-ranked offense is equally as good as a second-ranked defense, which of course just simply isn't going to be the case either way around. However, this next bit is a little bit more conclusive. So I looked at the average rank across all Super Bowls, and I would say the evidence was then rather compelling. Firstly, on average, the only way in which the winning team was better than the losing team was on defense. Not their defense being better than the loser's offense, but their defense being better than the loser's defense. I do have a theory that that actually means offense is more important, because if the only difference is your defense being better than their defense, it suggests that offense does the winning, but I think that just depends on interpretation, and I won't dwell on it. Here's the key bit. Super Bowl winners on average have ranked better on defense than they have on offense. Super Bowl losers have ranked better on offense than on defense. That means that if your team ranks better across scoring and total offense than they do on defense, they are more likely than not going to win the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's not entirely true. I just know a couple of the fan favorites out there are better on offense than defense, and I wanted to put the fear of numbers in you. I still think defense is more important. In 2005, the Seahawks were pretty much as good on offense as the Steelers were on defense, and as bad on defense as the Steelers were on offense. The Steelers, the team with the better defense, won. In 2013, the Seahawks were literally as good on defense as the Broncos were on offense, both being first in the league, and as bad on offense as the Broncos were on defense. Well, the Seahawks actually ranked better on offense, but again, the better defensive team won, and quite considerably. Good defense tends to beat good offense, but if both teams are more middling, then offense tends to win out. The same is true in 2002, where the number 1 defense in the league, the Buccaneers, beat the number 1 offense in the league, the Raiders, and in 2008, where the number 1 defense in the league with the Steelers beat one of the best offenses in the league, the Cardinals. I went into looking at this hoping to find that offense actually was more important than defense, because obviously that would be more interesting, and there are numbers that do show that. But at the end of the day, I think defense is more important. The fact that winners tend to rank better on defense than they do on offense, and losers rank better on offense than they do on defense, is actually the closest thing to proof that we have that defense is more important. Because the team that is better on defense than they are on offense tends to win, and that counters the argument, well, if defense is more important, that means offense is actually, because the defense stops the offense. It is more important to be good on defense than it is on offense, which is proven by the fact that the last 20 Super Bowl winners have averaged better on defense. It's also proven by the fact that one of the most popular sayings in football is defense wins championships, and I could have just made a 4-second video.